Going through the webcams of the places I go in the summer. They got a major storm up there. This is the Paintbrush Inn in Thermopolis, Wyoming, where we stay. That's where Thermopolis, the Hot Spring State Park is, and we stay in the RV park there. It's got the Olympic-sized hot pool. This is up the road in town. Look at there, somebody taking a picture, but you can see the snow. Now we're going to go over to Sturgis. I do my daily rounds of the webcam. Some of these cams are awesome because they're real-time video footage. That's what this one's going to be here. This is going to be the sidewalk cam in Sturgis. I'll full screen it. And I've got plenty of pictures with the dogs and I standing under here. Now, this is a video. It's not still photos anymore. Like, see the car driving by? Now there's another one right over here is Bob's Family Restaurant, where they have the it used to be $2 coffee and apple pie during the rally. And let me go to the other cam, it shows it better. And the dogs and I used to sit under there. They had a couple plastic chairs, and we go sit in the shade under there and just kind of hang out and watch people walk by. That's the main street where the motorcycle rally happens. I hope this camera is going to load up. There's two different cams there. Okay, now you can see Bob's. Let me full screen it. Okay, there's Bob's. And there's a little kind of a porch under here. We used to sit in the plastic chairs. And this is this main street in Sturgis where the rally happens. In fact, they set the stage up back here where they always take the picture from the air of the millions of people that crowd the street. But that's what's going on in Sturgis. Now, right up the canyon, we go daily to Deadwood. So I'm going to click on that cam right now. And this is a real...
David, K5RAV, this is N5CEY Mobile. So, you're like 30 over now. You just running 100 watts? Hey, Dr. Dave. You sound under the weather. I hope you're doing okay. There's a version, I think.
Let me turn both these down. This is downtown Deadwood, right up the canyon. The canyon goes down from here down to Sturgis, where I stay every year. And this is the main drag here in Deadwood. It's not looking too bad, but they had like, I don't know what it was, 6 or 7 feet of snow. I go shake hands with this guy every year. He's a wooden statue. I always touch him on the nose so that when I'm watching this webcam, like I am now, I always remember I always touch him on the nose. That's a weird thing I do on these webcams. These used to be just still photo cams that would refresh, and they've since moved to video cams now, which is really helpful to me to watch these things. I could leave this on here all day and just watch the world go by in Deadwood. Now I'm going to take you to Cody, Wyoming, and check this one out. Now this one I can't... This is auto refresh. It's not really video, but it's pretty close to real time. This is the welcome center here, and this goes around the curve. You can see the car moving. It's not real time like the others, but it auto refreshes every 10 seconds or something. But the Buffalo Bill Cody Museum's over here. Around the corner there's Walmart where we stay, and then the 50 miles up the canyon is Yellowstone, the east entrance. And that 50-mile stretch between Cody here and Yellowstone, Theodore Roosevelt called the 50 most scenic miles in America. And we stay in a couple of those national forest campgrounds there, and let me tell you, it's awesome. They had to close the part of the campground we stay in last year because they had a grizz attack somebody's dog. So my site that I always take was just inside the closed. No, that was 2 years ago. Last year we stayed in there and they had half the campground closed. We stayed in the site right next to the spot that was closed because the river comes through there. So we were as close to the closed part of that campground because of grizz that you can be. But we were in the trailer. Still a little scary because I'm just basically sleeping inside a big cooler if you're a grizz. You know, it doesn't mean they can't rip that thing open, but the difference is I've got time to defend myself if something happens. Like in a tent, you pretty much just wake up dead. Okay, that's Cody. Now let's go to, I hope you don't mind my video tour. Now we're going to go to Yellowstone at Old Faithful, and this is an actual live cam, and we're going to full screen it. I saw a coyote come in here yesterday, and by the time I can get my camera loaded up, he was gone. And you know what, this lady, there's a lady who's off-site that controls this camera. Evidently, she's a big donor to the park. So she's in like Missouri, and she's got a remote control that can, you know, span this whole upper Geyser Basin and zoom in. And the cabins we stay at are right over here. And yesterday, some people were messing around over here, and she moved the camera to look at them, and there were the cabins. So I grabbed for the cell phone to try to record it. And by the time I got my hand on the phone, she jerked it back. It's almost like she knew, no, you're not going to see the cabins. She very rarely pans this way to the cabins. So when she does, I'm so excited because you can see them with all the snow on top of them. No one's staying in them right now. They're right over here. And, you know, it's just a symbol of summer for me, this whole place up here. I love Upper Geyser Basin. But these are snowmobilers. You can see the way they're dressed, because they can snowmobile into the park. Everybody's in a snowmobile suit if you can look at them. I think you can take a snow coach in too, but these are definitely snowmobilers. Sometimes I just watch this cam for hours. Such a beautiful thing to have. Like if I'm here grading papers, put the paper right here, I got the ham radio stuff right here, and I'm looking into Yellowstone live, grading papers. I mean, what a better office environment can you have than ham radio and looking? It's like looking through a window right into Old Faithful. And of course, I'm sitting here and it's 61 degrees, which is cold for here. I've got a snowmobile suit stored in the closet. These guys are all wearing backpacks, so they bring their supplies. And it'd be a pretty scary ride to a snowmobile through those roads, because there's spots where if you go off the road, you go down. You can actually die. One of the kids I grew up with, he died in a snowmobile accident a couple years ago. And he flipped it over. I think he broke his neck. Snowmobiles can be very dangerous. Especially, you know, it's kind of like a motorcycle. If you don't respect it, it'll get you. There's a guy up the road that never wears his helmet. And I kind of warned him. He's like, I've had a bike since 1972. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Somebody can blow a stop sign, and man, that helmet's going to be your head. And that's what happens. If you don't respect it, it'll get you. My dad taught me that a long time ago. I'm sure it's true of a snowmobile. Anyway, that's Old Faithful and Upper Geyser Basin. Where do you want to go next? Let's go to Jackson, Wyoming. We don't spend much time there in the summer anymore because it's the most dog-unfriendly place I've ever been to. This is the park in Jackson Square, and each of the four corners has these antlers from the elk. This was in the movie Every Which Way But Loose. There's a bar there called the $1 Million Cowboy Bar where they filmed the fight scene in the second movie, which was called Every Which Way You Can with Clint Eastwood, and they actually fought in this park. But anyway, the dogs and I went all the way through Yellowstone, all the way through the Tetons to camp outside of Jackson at a campground called Grovant. It's French, I forget what it means. And we'd come into town, and there's signs at each one of these entrances. Not dogs must be on a leash. No dogs allowed in the city square in the center of the park. And you know me, I took him in there anyway. I said, that's just ridiculous. No dogs allowed in each of the corners. So they're not even allowed in there. And, I mean, it's just every little park in this city of Jackson, they had no dogs allowed. Could you imagine that? No dogs allowed in the park? I mean, I was just like, oh man. Most of the time I'd spend here has been by myself when I used to motorcycle through there, and I just didn't pay attention to that stuff. So we don't go there anymore. But I found a place where Shaggy and I, north of Grovant, up near the Tetons, that has a spring, a hot spring that feeds into the river. Somebody told us about it, and we went down into that river so the water's warm, and I could swim around in there with Shaggy, and he'd, you know, we were over our heads in water, so he'd come hang on me to take a rest. It was really cool that Shaggy and I got to swim together. Normally I don't because the water's always too cold, and he goes and I don't. But that was kind of cool. We got to go swimming together. And the campground there is called Grovant. It's actually right outside of the Tetons. If you go this way up the canyon, you get to the Grand Teton National Park, and the Tetons are over here, the big mountain range, which means two tits. And some people see that when they look at the mountain and mountain range. And then you can go all the way through the Tetons. It connects to Yellowstone. You come into the south entrance of Yellowstone and go all the way up through Yellowstone. And there's another, I've got a couple of cameras here. This is going to be an aerial photo. This is downtown Jackson, Wyoming. If this cloud front wasn't here, we got to start, it's 11 minutes. The Tetons are right here. I'll show it on a cloudless day, and you'll see the Tetons. But this is Jackson. The square is down here where we were just looking. The Grovant, so all the way up this canyon, and this way over here is where we stayed. But you can see from the air, looking down into Jackson. Now I've got another cam that looks right into Jackson from the other angle. No, excuse me, we're going there next. We got to hurry though because the video's getting long. Nope, that's right here. Okay, there's the other side. Over here is the $1 Million Cowboy Bar. And I wish you could read those signs from here. No dogs allowed. But there's one of the mountain ranges. Now we're going to quickly go over to, now I won't be able to find, there it is, Soda Butte. This is right outside of the, would be the northeast entrance to Yellowstone. And you can see it's all snowmobilers now. And this is a rugged area. This is the campground just outside of the first National Forest campground outside of town is called Soda Butte. And that's where the guy was in his tent one year and got mauled. We went there the very next year. It was a mistake to do this, but maybe it brought me to reality. We went to where the site was. Nobody had camped in it since because you only could put a tent there. And they've since made the campground hard-sided only, meaning trailers only. You can't be in their tent because of the grizz. And his site was still there with the firewood still stacked up. It was eerie, and it looked a lot like my site that we were camped in across the canyon, and I was in a tent that year. So we spent the next week sleeping in the back seat of my Ford, what was it, a Ford Fiesta or whatever it was. And it wasn't comfortable, me and 3 dogs. But I wasn't sleeping in that tent. I was scared after that. And then we started taking the trailer again after that. I left it home because I was being cheap with gas. I said how stupid that would be to get mauled by a grizz because I saved some gas money. So we took the trailer now. But maybe, it scared me, but it kind of brought me to reality of what that area is, and that could happen. And he got literally eaten alive. It was a female grizz and her 3 cubs. They trapped and euthanized her. Her 3 cubs are now in the Montana Zoo. So anyway, this is a really cool little town. It's really just this little area right here, and if you keep going straight, you get into that entrance of Yellowstone. Well, it's 13, almost 14 minutes. I wanted to do some more cams, but I'm afraid it won't upload. Let's just close out real quick with downtown Denver. Ooh, look at that. Man, it's cold there. Let's go to Arizona, Tucson. And it's 54 there. This is I used to live with a balcony that overlooked all this. This is the Mount Lemmon. This is the Santa Catalina Mountains. Ski Valley is right up here, the southernmost ski slope in the United States. A half-hour drive up to this mountain. You're at 9,157 feet, and it'll be snowing up there sometimes because of elevation. We're clear. I'm not sure this is going to upload.